Bryce, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the last time that Austin suffered from a winter weather apocalypse, the first podcast after that was you and I talking about our winter weather apocalypse stories.
No kidding.
I'm pretty sure. And now here we are again with Winter Apocalypse 2, Ice Electric Boogaloo. Gross. That was gross. Welcome to the RageSelect podcast, everybody. I'm Jeff.
I am Bryce.
Bryce, how was your winter weather event down south?
It could have been worse. I was without power and heat for about 24 hours, 22 hours or so. So it wasn't that bad. It was just kind of there's a certain like boredom that comes to being in a disaster.
Yeah.
That I felt very a lot of kinship to from 2 years ago, even though then I had electricity and internet. Anyway,
it's kind of
it's okay.
It's kind of weird how it's like boredom, but also very stressful. Like, I actually didn't have any power outages, but I was mentally just kind of wrecked. Like, I was, I was eating a bunch of fast food because half the places were closed, and like I like I said, I didn't lose my power or anything, but it was just like I felt like I wasn't sleeping and I was just waiting for disaster. So for anybody that doesn't know, we had a big kind of ice storm here, and it wasn't the snow that was the problem. It was basically all of the trees got like covered in ice, and then they all just started breaking apart and hitting power lines. And as we're recording this, I think there's still like a huge amount of people, because a lot of those tree breaks happened like in green belts and in places where even it took a couple of days for things to melt. And now we have, you go outside and it's just a symphony of chainsaws kind of everywhere in this town trying to get the stuff cleaned up.
Yeah, a lot of the trees got brittle between the ice, the big snowpocalypse 2 years ago, and then last year we had a pretty hot, dry season. So, yeah, the trees have not been not been having a good couple of years.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad to hear that it wasn't too terrifically long. Also, I have to say, okay, for the longest time, Bryce, I'm like, you know that thing when people who live in like much colder climates, and they come to Texas and then it's like 40 degrees and everybody's like, and those people are just like, oh, this is great, this is shorts weather, I do whatever, I take my dick out, it's fine, like
Yeah, you keep talking.
But I did notice that, I think I noticed this back in the previous snowpocalypse, right? But like, when you've been at like 30 for 3 or 4 days and then it suddenly goes up to 40, you go outside in 40 and you're just like, oh man, this is great. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why the difference between 30 and 40 is so big, but it's just like at 40 you're like, oh yeah, I can wear some shorts, get my dick out. Like, but 30, I had like, I bought all this cold weather gear after the snowpocalypse, so I've got like woolen socks and thermal underwear, and like I'm climbing on the side of a mountain, and then suddenly,
because it's Texas, right? This happened last time too. It's going to be 60 degrees today. It's going to be 70 tomorrow.
Yep.
Last time, then a couple of years ago, like right after everything was still broken. All the pipes were still busted. It was like 85 degrees. Like I had to turn my AC on.
Yep.
Like, right away.
It sucks. The state sucks. I hate this state. Anyway, enough talking about local politics. If we're getting dangerously close into Jeff's opinion on Austin municipal politics, which anybody that lives in Austin knows that once you've lived in Austin for long enough, you have very extreme opinions. And anybody that gets trapped in a conversation will have to spend 3 hours listening to about road expansions and light rail and like taxes and stuff like that. So let's not talk about that. We've got a very weird podcast this week. There's no theme. It's all over the place. But before we get there, Bryce, have you seen anything recently? I was going to watch Black Panther last night because they finally put it on Disney Plus, the Wakanda Forever.
The sequel? Oh.
Yeah. Which I hadn't seen before. And then I went to go load it up and I was like 2 hours and 42 minutes. Like, I'm gonna watch 7 animes instead. But what about you? Have you seen anything interesting worth calling out to the folks?
You know what I just watched this over the weekend or last week was the Junji Ito Maniac anthology on Netflix. That's great. That's a good little thing. I really dig it. Now I haven't watched any of the other. I know that they've done a few Junji Ito anthologies, anime anthologies already. I haven't seen those. I believe this is the same studio who made those previous ones. But I really dig it. They're really short. They end up being very short. A lot of them, I'm told, are adaptations from horror mangas that he had written in the past. But I was not familiar with them particularly. But it's great because they're like they're only half-hour episodes, and most of them are broken up into two different stories. So they get right to the point, which I think is great. It lets them do kind of wackier things, and you get kind of lost in the surreality of it. Like, I don't have an answer for this. What happened? What happened? Why are there balloons?
I think I started watching that, but I don't know why they keep. I think that one of Junji Ito's like weakest things is that weird family that was in the first episode, and like
I don't know why.
He likes them. I hate them. Like I like, compared to the balloon stuff, I know that like Tomi is in there. Those are some really strong Junji Ito stories. So to start out with that story, which to me has just always been one of the weaker things that he's done, was a really strange thing, and it kind of put me off. I mean to go back to it, but I got like 3/4 of the way through that first one. I was just like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I felt like that one, and because there are a couple of stories with that family, the Koichi Soichi family stuff. There's a couple with them. There is a Tomie story in there, and it's tough because it wasn't until I was like done binging it and through like the last story is another Koichi Soichi family thing, and it wasn't until there that I was like, oh yeah, I do kind of remember them from reading some of his books, and I do kind of remember that. But it was you're just kind of thrown into that dynamic of like, okay, here's a family, but then there's a weird kid, but the kid is about as weird as the other stories, but nobody's really reacting the same way.
Yeah,
like what's good? What? And that's tough if you don't know. Like, oh no, he's got recurring characters.
Yeah.
But it's good, and it's not there. It's not like horror. It's not like gore porn for horror.
Yeah. No, I agree. I need to go back and check it out again because, like I said, I even think that family. There's one story I think with like the big brother where he like apologizes profusely. I don't know if that one's in this, but it was in the manga, and it was almost like he would apologize so profusely because he had this like apology demon in him that gained power when he prostrated himself before people. So he was like incredibly overly apologetic, but then his apologies would like erode the person that he was apologizing to and turn them into like like their energy would get drained into this apology demon. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. But then some of the other stuff, like the little sister with the white eyes showing up and just being like, my brother, because no, it was in that story. She shows up to try to warn people like, hey, don't let my brother apologize to you. He's got an apology demon. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? Then everybody dies. Junji Ito at the end. Like,
yeah. It's neat. I kind of like that conceptual style of like, I don't know, balloons. Let's do 10 minutes on a balloon monster thing. And it doesn't need to be this like big next horror franchise.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. I think that stuff's pretty great. So that's just an easy watch, just a quick watch.
Well, it wasn't a quick watch, but speaking of easy watches, I did get a chance to check out Poker Face. I watched the first episode of Poker Face on Peacock. I got Peacock for my I was rewatching Parks and Recreation because I kind of just go through a bunch of sitcoms and I'll watch them all, and then I'll go to 30 Rock and The Office and stuff like that. But that's on there, and that's Natasha Lyonne, Ryan Johnson like wrote and directed the first episode, and it's like a real throwback, kind of like Crime of the Week thing. Like she can tell when people are lying. She just gets a sense when people are lying, and so in the first episode is this kind of meta plot thing that sets off like she's got to kind of go on the run, like the Incredible Hulk or like Kane from Kung Fu or whatever, kind of going from town to town, and every episode has a different big star. There's a murder, and she's got to figure it out. And I only watched the first episode. The one kind of weird thing is that they are one solid hour long, and I just really prefer when I'm recreationally watching stuff to watch stuff that's a little shorter than that. But
is it 44 minutes or 60 minutes?
60 minutes. Like it was made for no commercials. So it's like a BBC thing. And like I started watching it, and the first episode, I was just started watching it like in my spare time, and I was really surprised how fast I got into it because, Ryan Johnson, he's kind of like Vince Gilligan a little bit, or like Ryan Johnson directing an episode of television. He really just kind of steps up the production of like lighting and shots and composition and stuff that a lot of times isn't like directly noticeable, but it's just a lot more compelling than your standard reverse shot Netflix show. And so, yeah, I think the first episode is available for everybody. I'm not sure how Peacock works, if you can like watch it with ads or
they're actually going to make it a lot simpler. There will not be a free plan soon.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go. Well, watch it while you can. Go check it out, especially if you're a Ryan Johnson fan. I'm a big Ryan Johnson fan. As I understand, he did the first one, and then he's like the producer for the series, and he like wrote, he was going to write like the last episode, but then in between it's like guest of the week, guest director. I kind of miss that format, right? The kind of I guess it would be like probably, I've never watched Law and Order, but is Law and Order the same thing where it's like, oh, here's the special guest actor of the week who probably is the murderer or the person who got murdered or whatnot.
Yeah, that's how you do it on a procedural. They're either the victim or they're a suspect or they're the out of town cop who just has to figure this out with the local hoo-has and all that stuff.
There you go. So yeah, check it out. So all right, let's get into it. I tell you what, 1 hour is a long time to watch a show, but Bryce, what if there was a show that you could watch forever? This isn't really video game news so much as it's just like a weird thing I found online. Have you watched this AI Seinfeld show? Have you tried this at all?
I have.
Okay.
So good.
So this is a Twitch stream called Watch Me Forever, and it's basically like an AI chat GPT thing is writing like these episodes of Seinfeld. And then they've got this kind of real low poly, looks like a 90s adventure game kind of characters that walk around, and then they've got like text to speech, and so it generates these little episodes of Seinfeld. But the thing is that they are berserk because AI doesn't know anything, and so it just starts having you want to talk about a show about nothing? This is truly a show about nothing, and you can turn it on. Of course, I saw right before you joined for this podcast, I was watching it, and the chat was freaking out because the Jerry character and the Elaine character were discussing the long hours of the show that they're on and how they should like form a union and like complain and like, get better working conditions. And everybody was like, pull the plug. They become sentient. Anyway, you by your expression, you've obviously seen this. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's great. I like that they have gone through the effort of not just doing AI generated scripts, and AI machine learning text to speech, right? Just for voiceover. They work in this visual element that, like, they've recreated the sets, and so there are some sets that are in Larry's apartment. There are some sets that are in Fred's apartment. There are even like stand-up scenes where Larry's like doing his stand-up comedy thing in front of the brick wall, and even like the names flash up on screen. It's a good idea that is really, really well executed and brings just a lot of different things together. Like it's yeah, like I'm surprised we haven't had something like this sooner, because all of the pieces are here.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you think what would you think if this show developed, if the technology behind this developed to the point where the shows, one, made sense, two, looked good, like the characters will walk around but they barely ever face each other, and like God forbid they try to like sit or stand in a place, they just slowly like morph into a chair with their arms breaking backwards and around their head. But like, what would you think if this show was actually able to be made like watchable and funny, less of a surreal internet experience and more of a just like, here's an infinite episode of Seinfeld that is actually entertaining and never stops? The idea that we could use AI to generate essentially infinity TV. I don't know.
What's really interesting about this, especially from that angle, is that what this is, the Nothing Forever project is already that, by being not Seinfeld. Like when you watch in the chat, they have their own memes and references already to stuff, right? A lot of scenes begin with like, hey, did you hear a new restaurant opened up? And it's new restaurant drop, new restaurant, new restaurant, new restaurant. And so I'm kind of turning your question around on you just a little bit. That I think what it is already is really, really, really engaging with people, because it's not Seinfeld. It does have a contextual arrow to Seinfeld as a unit, but it's also building on with its own new form of style of modern aesthetic. So to the specifics of your question, I think that's unlikely to happen for that specific reason. But I think we could see more of this, right? I think, who is to say that we don't have a new form of entertainment in the future that is similar to a game, but it's just your own little story box.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just bought the Seinfeld bot. And it can just make me Seinfeld bits. And like, I think that would be really, really fascinating. And I don't think that there's a lot of reason that something like that can't happen. I think that's really fascinating, because I think there's not a lot of good reasons something like that can't happen, at least from a glance.
There's some interesting implications. In fact, while you were talking about that, I was just thinking how interesting it would be to take something like a Twitch plays Pokemon or a Twitch plays Dark Souls, and then see if there was some way that you could plug like the video stream into an AI that would basically do like let's play commentary over the chat playing a game, but like generated through AI. I don't know. It's hard to know how feasible something like that would be, but
and like I don't know. This is my last word on it. But like, it's what's really exciting is not just the things that we do today that AI and machine learning and big generative material can do, replicating an infinite amount of what we have today, but also something completely new, right? You mentioned Twitch plays Pokemon. Well, if you kind of extrude Twitch plays Pokemon to that same standard of like, oh yeah, but what if you did Twitch plays Pokemon, but also the chat managed to do it, to play the game really well? Well, that's a different thing. And that's that's certainly a different thing from what it is today, which is not exactly a let's play either. There's goodness, there's something really interesting.
See, all I know is while you were talking, I was kind of interrogating my own feelings, and I realized that what I'm asking is just like, Bryce, can we just make an AI out of Jeff? Can we just do this can I just automate this whole process so that like my whole job is just done by an AI?
Just to manage your Jeff bot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, who is to say that that's not something that can be
I'm going to get a little
in 15 years.
We get one of those little Elgato Twitch pads, and it's going to program like more dick jokes, more dick jokes, more dick jokes. So I could just, yeah. Anyway, speaking of dick jokes, no, that's not a good transition. It's time for the weekly. Let's talk about Activision and Blizzard and Microsoft for like a billion years because of that noise.
In it, Jeff.
Okay.
Let's not wallow in it.
All right, let's go. Activision Blizzard this week announced they are paying the Securities and Exchange Commission $35 million as a settlement for charges that it violated, basically reporting rules and whistleblower protections. And so what this is I think we always have to remember that there's like two streams when it comes to investigating Activision Blizzard. We've got the State of California Fair Working Commission stream, and then we've got the Securities Exchange Commission SEC stream, and then just so that everybody's clear, Microsoft is dealing with the Federal Trade Commission, so that's like a different government entity. This appears to be directly related to all of the stuff that came out about Activision Blizzard in 2020. And it seems as though, from what I can tell from this article, that basically the SEC found that Activision Blizzard's their response mechanisms for abusive employees, potential whistleblower stuff, like they had a thing in their contract that basically said if you leave and somebody contacts you about the working conditions, like you're not allowed to talk to them, which is a violation of whistleblower standards because, you know, you can be like, hey, they sucked over there and they did all these bad things. And basically what this came down to was they are paying out $35 million. However, they are also not admitting guilt, which is just an unfortunate thing that happens with a lot of these settlements where like the payout in a lot of cases is the payout is in some ways directly. What am I trying to say here? They're
buying their way out of this.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
They're buying their way out of the government, making them change the way that they do any of their business.
Yes. Yeah. So not great. I'm gonna go out here on a limb. I'm gonna make a bold statement here on the internet and go like, I, Jeff from RageSelect, think you shouldn't abuse your employees and make them sign horrible contracts. I'm in favor of not abusing employees, and then you don't have to pay $35 million. Of course, as somebody in the comments section for this article pointed out, it was like their revenue in 2021 was $8.8 billion, and that $35 million is about 1.5 days worth of profit if you divide that out over like the course of a year. So even though 35 million is a lot to, you know, and everybody except for Activision Blizzard, it's kind of just a drop in the bucket for them. I don't know. Anything stand out for you on this?
Yeah, I wish I knew more about the situation because I don't know what this means for the employees necessarily. I don't know if this is just the end of the story. So I don't have too much more to say other than, oh, okay. I'm surprised they told us the amount. The fact that like they had to publicly admit that it was $35 million is the greatest sign that they definitely were guilty of this, and they would like us to stop talking about it now.
Yeah, that's kind of been the issue with both the Activision Blizzard stuff and the Microsoft acquisition, right? Is that once a lot of this stuff gets into like government hands, then you're gonna be able to find out how much they paid because there isn't like a privacy concern built in. So, but yeah,
a lot of times settlements. A lot of times, I guess with the government, it's different, but a lot of times settlements are private. In a way that would be more frustrating in this situation.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. I actually messed a little bit of this up. We're going to just go ahead and skip some of these stories. But from there, actually, I'd like to to talk about this. Let's lighten the mood a little bit by talking about unhinged tweets. So Activision Blizzard CCO Lulu Cheng, who we've talked about before, who's kind of a character, came out on Twitter last week and basically tweeted at the FTC. I'll just read this. Did you catch last night's episode of The Last of Us? It was incredible. No wonder the show is breaking records. It's a true blockbuster watched by tens of millions. If you haven't already, you should check it out. You may be particularly interested in the fact that that The Last of Us is produced by Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions. It's based on a best-selling video game exclusive, or developed by Sony-owned studio and published by Sony as a PlayStation exclusive. Why does this matter? And then she goes into the FTC talking about how, like, Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard could be hurting the market. She's just like, but look, this television show is really popular, and this demonstrates that Sony is fine. They'll be fine, you guys. Just let us buy the maker of one of the biggest and most profitable, actually, like, several of the biggest and most profitable game franchises of all time, because Sony had a successful TV show. Which my response to this is, you guys have your own incredibly popular property. It's called Halo, and the only reason that your show wasn't good was because you kind of messed it up last year, or at least that's what I hear. I had never watched it, but
what? Oh, and also just really quick. We want to talk about competition. I'm sorry. We're talking about Sony shipping off one of their logos so someone can write a Last of Us story, compared to Microsoft, who owns a search company and like cloud and Azure and Office and fucking Windows. I'm sorry. Do we want to talk about competition? Because we can talk about competition, Microsoft.
That's been one of my favorite things about this entire merger, has been Microsoft's attitude of just like, oh, I'm just a simple video game developer. I don't know what's going on here. I was just trying to do right by my family. Yeah, like, nothing bad could happen
over there. We're just shaking fists at each other. Like, come on.
Yeah, so I do like to think of Microsoft as
nothing to do with Sony's video gaming at all. Neil Druckmann wrote it. That's where it begins and ends, as far as I know. Like says nothing.
It also is worth pointing out to the people. There's two things I want to say about this. One is I looked up the global lifetime sales of the Last of Us franchise, and it was like 38 million, 40 million, something like that. And then look the global lifetime sales of the Call of Duty franchise, and it's like 400 million. So like, we're not really comparing like apples and hand grenades here. Like these are different levels. I think that's the biggest thing, because I went and read, every so often I'll get to one of these tweets and I'll read the replies, and it's so weird to me to hear people talk about Microsoft like they're just a simple video game developer with a dream, just trying to make my way in this world. And it's like, no, dude, they're a $1 trillion company. Like, they are not, preventing this merger is not going to cause Microsoft to go out of business. In fact, it's probably not even going to change their profit margin that much. They're not like a struggling game developer or anything. They're a huge corporation. And so to see people weirdly go to bat for Microsoft like it's something personal to them. I guess this may just be like Jeff doesn't understand the console wars, because I still don't understand how people get so emotionally invested in like my boy Microsoft over here trying to do right by me, where it's like, no, dude, it's just a company. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's particularly strange.
Once you get into the console war stuff, then we could go all night. But it's very weird to say like, Sony's got plenty of competition because they've got a a music label and a movie studio. Like, well, okay, but they don't they don't have COD blobs. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's grasping at straws where for someone who is grasping all day. So
I think it's weird. It's trying to bring the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, into the into the video game console war. Let's see. In other Microsoft news, we found out this week that Redfall, the new vampire action game that we saw a little bit at the Microsoft conference, was that last week? Yes, last week. Will require an always-on connection to play, even if you're playing single player, which I mostly just point out because it's weird, because I feel like we got past this as a as a video game culture, right? Like, if a game is an online game, then we require an online connection. If a game has online and offline, we're pretty solid these days as to, like, you can play the single player version offline, but if you want to go, you can go online to play with your friends, but you can play the single player version offline. So it's just a little weird to just see a game have this particular requirement in 2023.
I mean, because this is like this is the vampire Left for Dead, right? Like, I don't know. Like, if it's got a single player mode, then yeah, it probably should have an offline component. It should just be playable offline. Because I don't know what you are sending out. I don't know what technical need necessarily you've got for having a persistent connection, but certainly you don't have a consumer standpoint, a consumer benefit to that. So.
Yeah, I'm really worried about this game just because, I mean, what I saw in the showcase that they put out last week, they talked about, because it's being made by Arcane, who made like Prey and like Wolfenstein Youngblood and some of those types of games. And I get the impression that this was really designed to be Vampire Left 4 Dead, but that, like, they realized that wasn't going to cut it, and so they've been really trying to play up the idea that it's like, but you can totally play it single player and you don't ever have to play online with your friends. So I mean, like, everything I saw from the gameplay looked good. I'm just a little worried because because most of the time when companies say that, it means it's a lie. They say, oh, well, you can play it online with your friends, or you can play it offline by yourself, and it's just as good. And it's not just as good. When you play it offline by yourself, you're like, oh, this was really designed to be played with multiple people. I'm not interested in doing that. I mean, most of the time when a game puts that on Front Street, to me at least, that's what it means, because there have been very few where play online or play by yourself, and it's an equally good time either way. I don't know. Maybe something like Diablo, I guess. But like these kind of first-person kind of action games, I don't know. That's just the impression that I got.
I don't know. Like, I played Back for Blood a few weeks ago because it just entered the PlayStation Plus thing, and I liked a lot of it, but the overarching all of the card system stuff and the modifiers and the buffs and debuff stuff that they were doing, that's what took me out of that game. Like, I like, yeah, the AI that I was playing with were not great, but it's not like you're doing a bunch of, it takes two puzzles, it's just go around, shoot the people, and then, like, what's frustrating about Back for Blood is just that the progression of it is really obtuse and the card system is very weird. So I almost am like coming at this from the other angle of this, Jeff, of like, and granted, I'm not the most up to date on this game, but I remember Back for Blood when they announced they were being very like open and talking about every system and all of this card stuff. And I wonder if maybe there's how much tweaking's going on behind the scenes to either get away from that or to be something different. I don't know, but I think I guess I'm not going to say it's easy to make a cool game like this for single player, but there's an easy way.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of wish that it was just single player because I like arcane stuff better when it's single player. But anyway, speaking of multiplayer, we got some news about Halo. The Halo team apparently so we got the news a few weeks back that Microsoft had laid off 10,000 people. Apparently, about 100 of those, 95 apparently, came from 343 that makes Halo. I do want to remind people that a lot of this was like contractors. Not that's like a good thing or a bad thing, but in all of these, I see that apparently Microsoft is still doing that thing where they just hire on contractors and let them work forever as contractors and then lay them off and then bring them back on. But apparently Halo is kind of they're kind of trying to revamp Halo. Some of the departures from 343 had some of the people that were involved with the studio head and stuff. And it appears that from this article that there's a kind of a conflict inside of 343 as to whether to move Halo over to the Unreal Engine or to keep it on, is it the Slipspace engine that it's been running on for a long time. And of course, the trade-off here is that their old engine, they've been using it for a long time, they know what's going on. But as is the case a lot of times with aged engines, apparently it's difficult to do stuff. It's a lot harder to develop for. Because as you keep adding more and more features, older engines you have to keep making more and more workarounds, which makes your engine more brittle, which makes it harder to build stuff for. So apparently the rumor is that there's a battle royale kind of mode called Tatanaka Tatanka that's being developed on Unreal, or that was being developed on Unreal using Halo assets that then kind of got put on hold so that all hands could work on Halo Infinite to try to get it out, but that the new head of 343 is more interested in kind of just like cutting Halo Infinite off, like stopping ongoing development and starting to work on like getting this battle royale thing out there as kind of a proof of concept of what Halo could do on Unreal. I don't know how much you have been following this, Bryce, but the impression that I get was that Halo Infinite's development was just like 100% fucked from top to bottom. Like they had to restart a couple of times. There was things that they showed that then, didn't make it in the game. As I understand it, the single player had like a very kind of constricted map. Like they never really implemented couch co-op. The multiplayer stumbled when it first came out. There were problems with the battle pass. There's problems with progression. And that the whole thing has just kind of like not been a great look for what should be, like we were talking about Last of Us, what should be like one of Microsoft's big system moving franchises. And so the idea of just getting this onto an engine, especially Unreal, the new Unreal 5 has some incredible stuff in it. To me, seems like a really good idea as opposing to continue to hang on to an aged engine, especially because, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. I'm not a game developer, but like, can't you get assets out of that one engine and at least get them into the other engine and then start working, from there? It's like you don't have to start over from the ground up. Like, how your Halo game should kind of look and how it should play. This is 343's third Halo game, I believe. Say 4 or 5 Infinite. Anyway.
As it pertains to Halo, it probably makes sense eventually, right, to get off of Slipspace. They mentioned in the article that it was, quote, based largely on old code from the 1990s and early 2000s. Mm-hmm. That's 20, 30-year-old code in some cases.
Yep.
And so I think the timing of it is very weird, right? After Infinite being this kind of weird stumble and having this hullabaloo with the single player and for Halo, I don't know how many more times you can kind of run to like, oh, just do the old Halo. We'll just do the old Halo. You love the old Halo, because I'm thinking of the Master Chief Collection, which also believe was a bit of a troubled product as well. So as far as Halo going to Unreal, they're just going to do that eventually. But I think and catch me if I go too far off the cliff here, Jeff. But I think a story like this really brings into question consoles and even proprietary engines. I think if we're looking at video game software in the same space that we do application software, computer and mobile software, there's not a lot of stuff in the non-gaming spaces that are like running on their own engine and code and language. There are a lot of them, but there are set languages that you can write a game or write a program in. And with the proliferation of Unreal and Unity, I wonder what happens next in that space of what is the value to a console if more developers are using Unreal and Unity and all this middleware that creates a bunch of compatibility out from the get-go. Then you just have this console where they're paying for exclusivities in some form or fashion. And then you've still got the PC platform, which continues to have the world's largest catalog of games ever created. And so it just when Microsoft is getting off of the Halo engine to Unreal, why is there an Xbox? Or why is there an Xbox that is not literally just a Windows 11 computer?
Well, I mean, isn't that what the current Xbox is? I mean, aren't the current consoles are just running x86 architecture with some like fancy front ends? I mean, they're basically just running UI replacement plugins on top of like PC architecture. And
so I mean, this is it's just a very open shot in the wind here, but I feel like this is something you could extrapolate. You could look at least as an indicator of a possible pattern of what is proprietary code? Is it an engine? You don't really need to be making engines anymore. Maybe we don't need to be making engines anymore. Just because you're a big studio doesn't mean you need to build an engine. We've seen fucking Frostbite.
Yep.
And what was the EA one?
Oh man, I was thinking about that. It was on the tip of my tongue. EA game engine. Wait, EA? What? That was Frostbite. Is EA?
What's the Ubisoft one?
Let's see.
Ubisoft has one as well.
Snowdrop.
Snowdrop.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a fucking ice. The fucking ice cream. The ice is melting. But we're not even in that era where let's make an engine, and to make it feasible, it has to power all of our sports games for 10 years. That's also ridiculous.
It used to be
untenable.
It used to be how Square was, right? Is like whenever they were going to make a new Final Fantasy, they would spend like 2 or 3 years building the engine for it from the ground up, and then they would look to do it. But then the thing is that I don't see as many stories, and it's possible it isn't as reported. But the thing is that Frostbite, as I understand it, is a goddamn mess. Snowdrop is like, if what I'm seeing come out of Ubisoft is what Snowdrop can do, it's like a medium engine at best. Like it's like Unity Plus. But the thing is that when I go and look at the actual things that Unreal Engine 5 can do, it's like Epic is really pushing the tech forward. Like they did the Unreal Engine 5 update for Fortnite, and it looks gorgeous. It runs ray traced at 60 frames per second at 4K, no problem. They've got that texture, like that kind of infinite texture regression thing where textures are now just automatically like cut down as they're further away it's like a streaming thing. Like the tools that
auto level of detail stuff.
The tools that they're putting out are amazing. And I, for one, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm more selfish than that, than maybe the philosophical stuff that you were talking about, is I'm just like, Unreal Engine 5 works on all the current consoles and it looks damn good. Please stop using your jankety ass internal engines that don't look good, run like balls, and like I gotta choose between 60 frames per second and ray tracing for spoken. Like I just give me the engine that does it all, or like get the fuck out of here. Like why are you going to be using your Halo engine from the 90s? I don't know. Part of this to me also points to, I really think that it's worth nailing down that, like I said this before, I'm going to keep saying it. You don't lose 10,000 people from an organization like Microsoft unless some of the people at the top were not doing their jobs right. Like, you don't just suddenly wake up one day and find 10,000 redundant people inside of your architecture unless you have teams that were mismanaged. And I personally think that a lot of like what you see here, and this could just be because I'm a dirty commie worker rights guy, but I think you look at this story and you find that like management doesn't want to spend the time that it's going to take to disengage from slip space and to retool everything into Unreal Engine 5. No, we need Halo out for the holidays, and then they try to get developers to crunch with that old engine, and then it becomes clear that like, oh, there's a problem, now we've got to retool this side of it and whatever. And like, if you could have gone back in time, it would have been better to have transferred over to Unreal Engine like 4 games ago, let alone in 2023. Like, so I think it's a good idea for them to do this. I think that every developer should do this shit, because UE5, I want Epic to have a stranglehold on the engine market, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and well, that's the other side of it, right? It's like there does have to be more than Unity and Unreal. There should be a little. We do need a little more diversity in that, but we're in a very promising time. Yeah, and yeah, that's engines.
Anyway, let's speaking of multiplayer games, let's go through some Overwatch 2 news real quick. This is a weird story. So there's a few things going on with Overwatch 2. One of them is talking about how they're going to retool the new hero Ramatra. They talked about how the Battle for Olympus stuff was received. There's a bunch of modes that are being changed, but the thing that I think is probably going to be the most controversial is they're looking at implementing a new thing where okay, so if you're playing Overwatch 2 and Blizzard servers notice that you keep playing with people that are cheating, they'll ban you, regardless of whether you are cheating or not. So, like, if it becomes clear that you have a pattern of teaming up with people that are seen to be consistently cheating, like the shade, and this is just like, oh, I got randomly matched into a thing. It's like you teamed up with somebody and then went into a game, and that person was found to be cheating, and then they got banned, and then when they came back, you teamed up with them again.
If your friends are cheating, you don't get to just say, I wasn't cheating.
Right.
Because you were benefiting.
Look, if your friends are cheating, they're not your real friends, okay? Like, friends don't let friends cheat at Overwatch 2.
And the interesting thing that I only am just kind of now putting together with this is they mentioned a little, or I guess Blizzard mentions a little later, hey, if we catch someone cheating, we ban them immediately, and it's all right away. And so I understand this policy a little bit more if you have that friend who doesn't cheat but everyone else cheats,
right?
And they're working their way with everyone on their last games, their last suppers. I guess I can understand saying like, hey, this is gonna happen to you too, especially if you know it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
you
would have to know it. I feel like you would have to know it, or you would have a really shitty friend if your friend didn't let you know that they were cheating and you couldn't tell.
They also talked about, I mean, you specifically said that they, Blizzard bans cheaters from Overwatch immediately with no like recompense, no like appeals process. But the people that are adjacent to them, they are going to have more tools for requesting like a review or being able to plead their case or things like that, where it's not going to be quite as like just choppity chop chop chop. So it's interesting. I don't know how much. It's weird. I don't play that much multiplayer, and when I do, I tend to do it on the consoles because I'm not good enough to play with mouse and keyboard. So I don't know how much cheating there is in Overwatch, but apparently it's still such a problem. I just to this day, Bryce, don't understand why the fuck you would cheat at a video game. Like if you cheat at Overwatch 2 and win, you didn't win, you jackass. You cheated. Like that win doesn't mean anything. Your value is garbage. You didn't actually succeed. You just you suck.
I mean they're a bad sport. Like they're a spoil sport.
Yeah.
Like they want to ruin the experience and they enjoy doing so. I think there's a sadistic side to it.
Yeah. Let's see. The other things that they talked about very briefly, there's a bunch of changes being made to the ranking system. There were a lot of issues with when you started a season and you would rank up to a certain level. And then there was a story I read a little while back that was like people would get to diamond or whatever the top level was, and then they would just stop playing because any match that they played after they hit top rank would have the possibility of lowering their rank as opposed to just staying there. But there's going to be some changes to rank decay. I'm not entirely sure how all this stuff works because I don't play ranked matches in Overwatch, but they're trying to fix it. They also talked about adding back in Overwatch credits, which used to be legacy credits that were unearnable. So when they went from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, I believe your credits came over. Yeah. Now they say that when you're playing the Battle Pass, you can earn up to 1,500 or no. All players can earn up to 1,500 credits per season and 500 as premium rewards for the Battle Pass. All of the skins that have previously been available are going to be available on the store, so people can go into the store and buy old legendary skins for 1,500 credits. Basically what does this mean is it means you can earn enough in-game currency to buy one legendary skin per season, which to me does not seem like a good idea, especially as somebody who just got done. I finally played Fortnite and I saw how their season pass works, and it's just like way more generous than this. This just feels like, again, Activision Blizzard wants they want you to give them as much of your money as they can, and they want to give you the least amount of rewards for your time and effort and cash and money. And I don't know.
Have Blizzard done a battle pass before? No. Hold on. But has Blizzard done a battle? Is this their first battle pass?
Let's see.
Maybe would HOTS have one? I don't think Hearthstone has one.
I think Diablo had something kind of like a battle pass. They had the kind of seasonal events, but it wasn't a battle pass.
Diablo have seasons.
But yeah, I think this is the first. Oh, no, Warzone, I believe, had a battle pass before this, because Warzone was out before Overwatch 2. And yeah, some of the Call of Duties have had battle passes, right? So some of the Call of Duties before the current one.
Activision. I think if you keep that, if you say that's all the Activision stuff, then I think that there's a bit of a firewall there.
Yeah.
But it's really strange that Blizzard is fucking up their monetization strategy. For how are they fucking this up? They're the people who are supposed to do this really well. Microsoft needs to step in there and make them make good decisions. Apparently,
it's because, you know what, the thing is that I again, this is one of those things. Just, here comes Commie Jeff to tell you how all upper management are devils that are looking to steal your babies or whatever. But like, Activision Blizzard specifically over the last 3 years has basically just like, they just seem like they got really, really, really greedy with everything. You go back and look at like Diablo Immortal and like all of the monetization, and not just like, as gamers, I'm not here to say like nobody should ever monetize their product ever, but there's a difference between like monetizing your product like Fortnite does, where you just, I don't know, you play some matches, you get some coins, you buy Spider-Man skins, you do whatever you feel like, and just like this really hardcore, like you looked at the battle pass for Overwatch 2, and it was like a whole level would give you a spray. And it was like, guys, we know from Overwatch 1 that a spray is a bad reward. Nobody gets excited to get a spray in Overwatch. They want the skins, right? Whereas, you know, like in the Fortnite Battle Pass, it's like you're getting the skins, but you're also getting the weapon skins and stuff like that. It's mostly skins. Yeah, dances, or you get V-Bucks that you can then go spend in the shop to buy the stuff that you want. So like, they just seem like they're trying to put out the bare minimum, and they want to milk the customer for everything they're worth. And I think that for most of the players, I mean, it's been not a secret that since Overwatch 2 has released, that a lot of people are just like, I miss Overwatch 1's loot boxes, because at least I got stuff out of those. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go play my matches for the week and I'm going to get a spray or a weapon charm or some bullshit.
So. I know we're going to talk about other online and mobile things in a bit, but this is really kind of annoying to hear. You know, I feel like games that are primarily online live service games, you have to figure this stuff out, and it is your responsibility to do this right. You know, greed is a valid complaint, and yes, it's subjective. Everyone has a different sense of how greedy is too greedy, but with a game with a free-to-play game, you're saying, instead of giving me $60 or $70 to play this, I need enough of your time that I, the developer or publisher, would have extracted $60 or $70 out of you or more over the life of this game. And you have to make that value proposition. You can't just say, hey, we made Overwatch free now, and that means we're going to make all the other monetization stuff of it worse or a little less generous or what it's not an in and out one for one thing like that, and it's very frustrating. And granted, I'm again not in Overwatch community at all, but it's very frustrating to see these articles and go like, you are letting these players down. Not only are you letting these players down, you leveraged the experience that you leveraged the experience of the live experience game. You leveraged that. You took credit out from your players, from their time and energy and commitment to this, and are ultimately not delivering on a full experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If this was not an online game, you would have to have an unlock system worked out, and you wouldn't. We see this a lot with single player games in general, right? Like, oh, okay, we're gonna tweak. Maybe we'll make a big tweak to change it, but like, you have to fucking figure that out. And with the live service game, you're saying, trust me, we will eventually figure this out. Maybe, please give me money now.
Right. Yep. I saw an article today. I didn't read it, but it was just like talking about how we might be getting close to the end of the live service boom, because they pushed it to the point where, just like you said, they are underserving their customers, because you have to give customers a certain amount of value to keep them in the ecosystem. And a lot of these companies, it's the first thing on their mind is, how much profit can we wring out of you? And eventually your customers will go, this isn't fun. I'm not having a good time. The rewards that I'm getting don't make me feel good. I'm going to go play something different that does make me feel good, because this is a game. This is supposed to be entertainment. This is supposed to be leisure. And if it feels too much like a job that I'm doing for bad pay, I'm going to stop doing that. Like, again, like you were saying, it's just not a good value proposition. So, let's see. Speaking of value propositions, there's going to be a bunch of Xbox games removed, a bunch of Xbox 360 games removed from the marketplace. And that is happening February 7th. So, oh boy, by the time this comes out, you will have like a day. Nothing here that's, I think, too. I mean, like Blue Dragon is on here, which is a very specific Xbox type of thing. But like, a lot of Call of Duties, a lot of Assassin's Creeds, Counter-Strike Go is on here, Dark Souls, but there's a remaster of that. Darksiders is a remaster of that. Eats Chowdown.
There are a couple of really weird items on this list, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
First off, there's a bunch of Ubisoft games on here, like South Park, like a bunch of those Assassin's Creed titles. Like there's Far Cry 2 is on here.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's an Ubisoft Plus thing or what, because they have some of that integrated on the PlayStation side. And I feel like I know I can play a bunch of old Assassin's Creed games and like PS3 era Assassin's Creed games through that. So I don't know if this is either a sign that Ubisoft Plus is going to take these out of the store and reserve them in that subscription service, or given that this is on Xbox, maybe we'll see some of these go over to Game Pass, because you've got both Left 4 Dead's in there, which would presume, or no, that would be Valve. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of this is like we're getting it off the store so we can put it on Game Pass, or what? Because some of these I don't understand why they would take them off if they're still compatibility.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say at first that like some of these had, a lot of these have like an online component to them. Like even the Assassin's Creeds, that was back when they were putting the multiplayer into Assassin's Creed, and there was like Call of Duty games and Counter-Strike, Dark Souls and stuff like that. But then you've got stuff like Limbo. Like, why would you take Limbo off the 360 store? It seems weird.
Peggle 2? Like, these are not...
Lost Odyssey? That's just like a big-ass JRPG that, as near as I could tell, everybody likes Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon. Like, yeah, why would you take Peggle off the store?
And
or Spelunky?
This is taking it off this... I didn't realize they were still selling 360 games, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So relatively speaking, I guess that's a surprising amount of longevity. But and it's good that if you own these games, you can still download them and whatnot. But it seems strange. I guess licensing stuff happens because this is I don't like you. There's no PS3 digital downloads anymore, or I don't think that there are.
I think there still are. I think they were gonna shut that store down, and then they decided not to. I thought. I mean, I don't know. I kind of got that went back and forth so many times, and they keep talking about how they're just going to turn off the PS3 store. I think they shut down the Vita store. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. But anyway, if you have an Xbox 360, you might look at this list and just see if there's anything on here that you want before it gets turned off. So. And with that, I think we're gonna go ahead and take a break. And then when we come back, we're gonna have to go into like super maximum overdrive because I put
so many stories this week.
I did. I know I did. And I thought, I don't know why I was like, we're just gonna go through them super fast. And then, hey, Bryce, the person who I talk with about stuff the longest, do you want to come on and discuss the ethical implications of every story? Anyway, we're gonna have to go faster. We're gonna do our Sonic the Hedgehog impression. We'll be back in just a minute. And now comes the time, Bryce, where we gotta shift it up. We gotta get it in high gear. Here it goes. All right. I already cut a bunch of news, but still, there's a lot of news. So, all right, here we go. Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony are all going to be skipping E3 2023 this year, which is big news for this kind of goes to the thing I've been saying for a long time. that E3. Well, okay, so typically Microsoft has not had a booth presence at E3, but they still do a presentation around the time of E3. That will be happening as well. The big one is that Nintendo usually does have a booth as well as their presentation, as well as their Treehouse live stream, but they are not going to be attending E3. And then Sony's been kind of out of the game for a while now, which brings up kind of the interesting question of, like, as I've been saying for a long time, why the hell do we still need an E3? Like, we've got a lot of the things that E3 used to do are mostly dead at this point. Like, even I think the final nail in the coffin was, like, a lot of times, you know, you'd have booths at E3 where game journalists could play upcoming games and then, like, report on them. As far as, you know, the live stream stuff, that shit's been just out in the open. Companies doing that for a long time, but even now we're starting to see with, like, Summer Games Fest and stuff, demos that are put out for a lot of the stuff that's out there that then, you know, people at home can play, as opposed to having to read secondhand accounts via game journalists. So I think there's probably still some stuff there's maybe still some value, but, you know, E3 was a trade show that then morphed into a media event, and then there was no reason to really have that media event anymore. They're still going to be going on with it, and I don't know, who knows? Maybe it'll be okay, but it kind of feels to me like it should be more of like a TwitchCon kind of thing, like a big meetup kind of party thing, because it's not necessarily like industry. It's not like it used to be where they would come out and show the earnings for, you know, Q4 of console sales or anything. So I don't know. Are you going to miss E3 when it eventually goes down in flames, Bryce? I'm not.
I mean, the thing, there's no going back.
Yeah.
There's no going back with E3. Like, the thing that it was, that place, you know, even your suggestion of just make it a TwitchCon, like, that's going in the opposite direction. That is going in the continued direction of what E3 had been going through, which is a more public event.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, but you're right. Technically, there's not a lot of reason to do it. You know, companies that want to do behind closed doors demos still can. There's more options to do that remotely as well. It makes sense that it's going away, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's a bummer, but I also think that a lot of the good parts of E3 will live on in conventions, right? If what you want to go and do, what you want to go and do is like see the next upcoming games, which will all be indie games, really. If you actually want to play them and see them and talk to the people who are making games, go to PAX, go to TwitchCon. TwitchCon's got booths, not a lot of them. That's the thing, is not a lot of them, but they've got them, and those are the people who are really making games, who you as a player can really. I don't know how many games, when they finally come out, Jeff, I've been already inundated with them because I'd seen them at so many conventions at that point, right? What is it? Weapon Boyfriend Dungeon, that was on the con circuit forever. And so you're glad to see stuff break out, but that's where you can see stuff early. That will something there. If you look at enough stuff, something there's going to be a next big thing, and that was something you got a version of at E3 because everyone there was Activision and Sony, and they were going to make the biggest games anyway. But again, that book's closed. So, you know, I think if what you miss is that experience of, I want to see the next thing before anybody else, you're not going to see it at E3. You're going to see it at these smaller conventions.
Yep, I agree. Let's see. Speaking of Sony, apparently the Sony PSVR 2. Okay, well, there's a little bit of back and forth with this. There was a story that said that Sony had cut the number of launch units of the PSVR 2 from 2.2 million to like 1.5 million or something like that, due to kind of sluggish pre-sales. I think it's kind of a weird back and forth. This article was a little confusing to me because Sony was like, we didn't cut production numbers, but I get the feeling that they're going to be cutting the number of like shipped units. That they're going to be shipping fewer units during the launch. Because I mean, the PSVR 2 is supposed to launch at the end of February. I believe it's February 22nd. And the pre-orders have been open for a long time. But the thing is that it's, the package for it is $550. And then like if you want games on top of that, it's more. And like they kind of put this out, I think, at a time when the PS5 was not super. I mean, the PS5 is still relatively. You can get them now, but they're not like as out there as before. And then also the PSVR 2 is not going to be compatible with previous PSVR games. So like the PSVR 2 titles are going to be all original things. It's not like you're going to get a PSVR 2 and then play a better version of Super Hot. You're going to have to go get the new Horizon stuff that's out there. I don't know. Like I'm a big fan of VR, and like the PSVR 2, all the tech specs I've seen on it look great, but I also think that $550 is a big ask right now, especially between inflation and like just general financial woes. Like I can really understand people that are just like, I'm interested in VR, but I already have an expensive PlayStation. I'm just going to keep playing expensive PlayStation games on my expensive PlayStation 5 as opposed to shelling out basically a second console in order to play like, I think they said their launch lineup is like 21 games, and like that Horizon game looks pretty cool, but God damn it, we don't have time for a tangent, but like I don't know that Horizon is necessarily the draw that Sony might think it is. Like I think that there are a lot of people who like that franchise, and I think the people that like it a lot, but I just I never got the impression that it was such a wide draw that you could be like, oh shit, there's going to be a Horizon VR game. I gotta get a VR headset to play that because like, I don't know. I don't know. Did you have a PSVR at any time?
I still haven't. I don't have any VR anythings. You know what I just thought about? I don't think it's pre-orders. I think it's materials. This is just wild speculation. Mm-hmm. But. There's been a lot of talk of Apple doing their alternative reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if component makers are trying to stave off a push to the bottom before Apple enters the market.
Okay.
Because I think it's ridiculous that they would sell the PlayStation VR 2 for more than the cost of the console, mm-hmm. in a world where it still seems a little difficult to get the console. I don't exactly know, but then those numbers don't even make sense. And it also kind of is a weird fucking thing for a Meta to have raised the price of the Quest. Mm-hmm. You don't normally do that. You normally go the other direction.
Yeah.
And that would seem to me either I just think it's costs. I think we've used up all of the promotional venture capital stupid money, mm-hmm. and now they're trying to keep costs up before Apple gets in and brings it down.
I could see that. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if this one works, because as I understand it, the original PSVR sold well enough to make a second one, but not like it wasn't just like the breakout thing.
And not backwards compatible. What the fuck?
Yeah,
you have to figure that shit out.
Yeah, I don't know how that's another one of those ones that's really weird, because I mean, I do own a bunch of PSVR games, and a lot of them were a little janky, and it'd be cool to see them running at a higher resolution, especially considering the architecture on the PS5 is not that much different than the PS4, that I feel like you should be able to do it. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's some kind of weird...
Do we need consoles, Jeff?
Hey, you're gonna make me
made this process worse.
You're gonna get me off on my rant about of my RTX Now. I've been getting really into RTX Now. So anyway, other PlayStation news. Sony put out a little thing called Live from PS5 that was a little trailer with like some fake news, and then it was like, oh, we're going over to so and then they're like, yes, Spider-Man and God of War Ragnarok. But in the middle of this, there was a game, an unidentified game that looked like it was some kind of person looking at like old tombs and such, that was like a lady. It's hard to see. It happens just like a lot of times in the background of some of the other stuff. And so you'll see these images of like what looks like a lady, like with a torch, like looking at stuff. And people are thinking that this might be a new Uncharted, because at the end of Uncharted 4, there was a very brief point where you get to play as Nathan and Elena's daughter, who kind of discovers that they used to have this crazy globetrotting like adventure lifestyle. Now, it's weird because currently Naughty Dog has talked about how they are fully committed to getting this Last of Us multiplayer spinoff going, and then they've got another game that they're working on. So it's possible that we might be looking at an Uncharted spinoff game by a different developer, or this could just be something else entirely. Who knows? But it does seem like a weird thing for Sony to put in this trailer without any real explanation. And that leads to, of course, wild speculation. My money is it's a new Hideo Kojima game, because that's always what everybody says whenever there's a thing in a Sony trailer that you don't know what it is.
This is a Strand trailer.
That's right. Hideo Kojima is making the next Uncharted game for some reason. It's going to have Norman Reedus in it as Nathan Drake. I don't know, Bryce. How feasible do you think this is? It's Uncharted.
It's going to be Uncharted. Yeah. I mean, it's either going to be Uncharted or it's going to be like the next Uncharted slot. It'll fit into the next big cinematic adventure franchise that they're doing.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. From there, speaking of PlayStation, one more thing. This kind of ties into one of the previous stories. The PlayStation Plus collection, which was a big bunch of games that were made available for the PS5 in 2020, is going away. So this is going to be taken offline on May 9th. This is mostly just a PSA because there were some bangers in here. I mean, like Bloodborne was in here, Fallout, God of War, Infamous, Second Son, Mortal Kombat 10, Ratchet and Clank. Like there was a lot of good stuff in here, even Uncharted 4 for that matter. And these were all available. You just had to go basically claim them one at a time. This is one of those things where they announce, like, here's a bunch of games. And I'm like, I already own every single last one of these because I run this channel. But for those of you who don't, you should go cash in on these before they go away.
I know that there was a PS Plus element to this, but this was kind of an amazing thing to just offer people who buy your console like 20 games. Just hey, you're gonna buy a console. Here's a bunch of games, and even now, as long as you stay in PS Plus, like your other PS Plus stuff, then you can keep playing these games. So it's not even like they're getting ripped away from you at this point. I don't think. I mean, Game Pass is obviously its own proposition, but I think it's kind of crazy that 20 games were just free to people just to get them to buy the console. Basically.
Yeah. In fact, in the beginning, Persona 5 was on that list as well. And then it got taken off, I think, when the Royale version came out. But yeah, it's a good value. Go get this stuff. Play all these games. They're pretty good.
Go claim them. Go claim them now because you can keep them.
Yes. Let's see. We got some news this week that apparently deep into the future, this is projected for 2025. Far Cry 7 and a separate Far Cry multiplayer game are supposed to both be in development over at Ubisoft. This is, at this point, I think Far Cry is one of the few franchises that Ubisoft has left that sold relatively well, even though I thought Far Cry 6 was kind of a dud personally. But I'm actually kind of interested in what so Far Cry 7, that's no brainer, Bryce. what the fuck is a Far Cry multiplayer game? Like, how many multiplayer games do you need, Ubisoft? Like, is it just a first-person shooter, like a Call of Duty style game? I don't know.
I mean, co-op has been such a big part of Far Cry lately. That part of me thinks, well, you could rip co-op out of Far Cry and make it its own SKU, but then that would be really shitty to do. That would be a really tough sell for folks. So maybe it's some version of wanting to I don't know, esportify Far Cry, right? It will
adversarial multiplayer as opposed to
the same way that Uncharted games and Last of Us games had multiplayer modes. The same reason a Metal Gear Solid game had a multiplayer mode.
Right.
This is Ubisoft we're talking about here. I don't expect them to reinvent any wheels to make a Far Cry multiplayer spin-off, actually.
I just think that Ubisoft should learn from their mistakes, and I think that they've either fully developed and then canceled, or announced and then canceled so many online multiplayer games that it's just like, guys, do you really think that this is going to be the one? Like, you get your shit together. But I don't. Nobody at Ubisoft is listening to my opinion about Ubisoft, because they're like, yeah, I don't like them. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's so far into the future.
Maybe it'll be a battle royale game. Does Ubisoft have a battle royale game online right now? I don't think
they were supposed to have there was supposed to be a Ghost Recon battle royale game, but I believe that got canceled. I don't think that they have one. Oh, no, wait. It was called Hyperscape. They developed it. They put it out. They left it online, and then they shut it down and deleted it. So,
yeah. New battle royale for you.
Boo. Let's see. From there, let's talk about the day before. Last week, there was a really weird thing where the day before said that they pushed out the launch from March until November, and the reason cited was this really weird copyright thing where apparently the Yahoos over at the studio Fantastic that are making this, like, they announced this game, including the name of it, before they filed the trademark for it. So the day they announced it, like some patent troll in Asia just went in and like snapped up the naming rights for the day before. And then last week they talked about how they were supposed to be showing off some gameplay stuff, but they were oh no, we've got to push everything back, and it's because this thing happened. But then last week they came out and they said, JK, actually we are going to be showing it. And so they showed 10 minutes of gameplay for the day before. Now, Bryce, this is like one of the most wish-listed games on Steam. I think that only Hogwarts Legacy has like more pre-order or wish listing or whatever. I watched this 10-minute trailer. I don't know if you did. This game looks stupid, or not stupid. It just looks like really generic AF. It's like a third-person multiplayer zombie survival game where you kind of run around through a destroyed city, shooting zombies and looting houses for machine gun parts and like bandages, and you're making stuff, and there's a hordes of guys, and I don't get it. I don't understand what the appeal here is. I watched this whole 10-minute trailer, and outside of the ladies' tight yoga pants, I couldn't really find very many compelling reasons to play something. I mean, I guess there's not like a slot that fills this of kind of, it's The Last of Us, but an online multiplayer game that you could play with your friends in a persistent world, kind of like Rust or not Rust, Daisy, something like that. Like, but I don't know. It's weird.
This 10-minute video is nothing. This is nothing. This is a crafting menu and walking around some post-apocalyptic map. I'm trying. We've talked about this day before game a little bit, but I was not entirely in the know about it. And then looked up the developers of this. Fantastic. This is a volunteer run company. This is
Yeah.
This does not look like a game studio in the sense that real games come out of this.
It's weird. I mean? In fact, one of the
other games that their publisher have put out, like Cooking Diary: Restaurant Game, Tasty Makeover: Match 3 Game. I don't think this is. I don't mean to damn them by the company that they keep, but this is nothing. This is not an MMO. This is barely a Rust knockoff. You got a downtown city map, and you put a bunch of Bob's Burgers quality wordplay signs all around, and then you're aiming a gun. Like, they don't even get like close to zombies or anything in this video. They pop them from a pretty good distance for some. Like, this is nothing. This is clearly nothing. This call me when this is something.
Yeah, when the combat with the zombies happens, it always happens, like you said, at a distance. The zombies go down super duper quick, and like the thing, I tell you what, the biggest thing. You just mentioned it, but the thing that was the most interesting to me was the way that they've taken just like established brands and changed like 2 letters in the name, but kept the logo almost identical, or the font or whatever. Like, instead of a CVS pharmacy, there's a BVS pharmacy, and instead of Whole Foods, it's Soul Foods, SOLE Foods, with the exact same font. And it's like, guys, you got to do more than that. Like, you can't just use every name brand and change one letter in it. But yeah, I don't get this one at all. Maybe but then, you know what? I'm not like, I don't have the standard gamer psychographic. I'm not interested in playing Last of Us. I'm not interested in playing multiplayer games with people. It looks like a zombie version of The Division, but bad. I don't know. It's. I think I'll agree with you. Call me when it's something. Yeah.
Like the description here on this IGN video, they describe a new open world MMO survival. None of those words are accurate. Like, none of this, what I'm looking at. No, this is not a product that is 8 months away from release. Sorry.
Yeah. Or if it is, I mean, it's possible that there might be here. It's also, I was watching this video and I realized that, like, it's possible that with a volunteer group like this, that whoever made this video did not understand how to make a video to get people interested in your game, because this video spends at the beginning like a good 3 solid minutes just in this weapon attachment menu showing different handguards and muzzle brakes for an AK-47, and it's just like, no, I get it. Your game has different parts that can go on your guns. Like, show me. I mean, why the survival mechanics, right? Like, show me the hunger bar. Show me, like, how damage works. Show me what happens when a zombie gets to your character model, as opposed to just this for 10 minutes. So,
I don't think it's a witch hunt to ask, what is your game? And I don't think that what people are asking from them, they're trying to sell this motherfucking thing, and they refuse. Mm-hmm. They won't even say what it is. Fuck off.
Well, actually, that is one thing that they talked about, where they said that there have been rumors that this thing doesn't exist and that the whole thing is just a cash grab. But like, one of the senior developers or somebody did come out and they were just like, we didn't have a Kickstarter. We haven't asked anybody for money. This isn't even available for pre-order. It's just a wish list thing on Steam. So like, they are at least not taking money from people. Like this is independently financed and being published by another publisher, but that's not exactly like the greatest excuse in the world for I don't know. I don't get it.
I question the newsworthiness of it. Like I question the editors at IGN and RageSelect who put this on the lineup.
Hey, all right. Well, from there, I guess okay. You want news? I got news for you. Star Wars Jedi Survivor has been delayed. How about that? That's some actual news. Instead of the March 17th release date that was there previously, it's going to be coming out at the end of April. This is one of those things we've seen a lot of times before. They need another month to basically the game is complete, like the whole thing, the story and the action, everything is done. They just want another month to polish up and get rid of some bugs beforehand before it comes out, which I'm all in favor of. I'd rather play a game day one that was more polished than a janky mess that has to be fixed in the first 2 months that it's out. So not much more to say there.
I guess I didn't know this game existed, so I think it's different. I think it's just you know what? I think you're allowed to do that. I was thinking about like when Cyberpunk did this, and I was like, you really can't like change your game this close to release, but they're fine. That's totally fine.
Yep. Let's see. In other EA news, there's a bunch of weird EA stuff. Again, I think that there's, I didn't mention this before, and not to get too far off on a tangent, but there's a lot of like canceling products or projects, reducing the scope of things, like that big Microsoft layoff. Like there's just a lot of instability right now, I feel like, in the game industry as a whole, and probably just in like industry, right, as a whole. Like we don't talk about the layoffs at Google and places like that because this is more focused on video game stuff. But apparently there was a Titanfall game in development at EA, which is some shit, because they spent a long time saying over and over again, we are not developing a new Titanfall game, and yet they were. And it was supposed to be a game that took place in both Titanfall and the Apex universe, which are related, and it has been canceled. So they kept saying that there wasn't a plan to make another Titanfall game, but apparently there was, and then it just got canceled. I personally think that part of the reason for this is that Vince Zampella is currently working on that Jedi Survivor game. They just put him in charge of the Battlefield franchise, and like if he was also working on this, that it might just be like, you can't just have this one competent guy at EA make every single game franchise that's coming out, and that if something had to go, it was going to be this kind of niche game. Anyway.
Especially if it's something that can cannibalize Apex. Like,
yes.
Apex is the baby. Apex is a Titanfall child, so you cannot have a Titanfall 2 until Apex is really needs a boost.
Yep. Actually, it's funny because one of the other things they canceled was the Apex mobile game that is a thing, is shutting down in May, and they basically said that this was never as good as we wanted it to be. And again, I get the feeling with a lot of these companies that their eyes were bigger than their stomach, so they started up too many projects, and that they've started to see that like, if you as a company keep putting out cheap crap after broken and cheap and broken, that like you get a reputation where people aren't going to be as hyped for whatever your next thing is because they burn their hand on the stove too many times. So you need to start doing some quality control and cutting some of this stuff. Because there was also a Battlefield mobile game that had been rumored to be in development for a while that was also canceled, which is good because as near as I can tell, they're still trying to fix 2042 like a year and change into it. So
these these services, man, they can't just spit them out like that.
Yeah, or if you're going to put out a live service game, you could do it, but it has to be quality because you are asking for people's time from a bunch of really established, already existing quality live service games. You're asking people to stop playing Fortnite and start playing Battlefield, and if the Battlefield experience is crappy, they're not going to want to do that. So, let's see. Also, Knockout Kings is shutting down, which is kind of Knockout City. Sorry. Yeah, different thing. Knockout City, which was the dodgeball battle royale game that EA published, was out for like a year and change, something like that.
About 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, I remember playing it on RageSelect. They had some real high profile stuff. I think because of their EA connection, they had like a Ninja Turtles crossover and like a few other things where they had their seasons that they put out, and each season had its own theme. I tried playing this game when it came out, and it was pretty fun. But I could definitely see, again, this goes back to the, like, you're asking people to come play your dodgeball game in a market that is saturated with companies asking for people to come play their video games. And so, you know, it was fun, but it was never going to be the next big thing. Or I don't know. I guess maybe the opposite side of my own argument is like it could have been the next big thing, and in order to find the next big thing, you gotta try different stuff and see if the dodgeball game is going to be the thing that Twitch streamers all go crazy for, and then the Zoomers are all super into this dodgeball game, and it just didn't work out that way. But
yeah,
yep.
I mean, it's not a shooter, you know. I mean, at least it was something different, because that's where that's what pops right now, is something unexpected.
Yep. And then last on the battle royale shutdown, unexpected battle royale shutdown, Rumbleverse is shutting down, which was the wrestling battle royale game. I don't want to be a big dick about this, Bryce, but Iron Galaxy made this, and I feel like they have just been on a bad roll when it comes to games, because they made Extinction, which was really terrible. I guess, you know, that was the last thing. And that's the thing I remember them for, which was like a Shadow of the Colossus thing where you're fighting these giant ogres. And boy, it was just not very good. They did work on a bunch of Killer Instinct games, but they just haven't been doing a lot of like the best work in the world. I guess it looks like they're doing some porting stuff as well. So that'll keep you in business for a while. But
it does sound like that they are keeping it up at least for I guess only for a few more weeks, but it sounds like they are going to refund everything. And I thought this was cute. They're like turning on multipliers in their battle pass, so you can, I guess, speed through whatever they've got on the battle pass right now.
Yes.
To just at least see what was there. That's at least a cute way to kind of set it off. But yeah, you know what? These games, not all of them are going to win.
Yep. I mean, actually, when I played it with John, it was fun. Like, it was kind of an interesting concept because it was all like weird melee, and then with these strange, you would literally, instead of like picking up a purple machine gun, you would pick up like a purple like wrestling move that you could, if you got close enough, you could do an epic power slam on somebody. It was pretty fun. So, let's see. Embracer Group is a savvy investor because they purchased. So what? Last year, when they purchased all that stuff from Square Enix, they paid $300 million. They got Crystal Dynamics. They got what else did they get? They got Thief,
Iron Silver.
What's that?
Didn't they get the Saints Row folks?
Oh yeah, Volition. I think.
Did they get THQ Nordic and stuff too? Like all of that crew.
Yeah,
is under Embracer now, basically.
Who's Deus Ex?
Wasn't that Crystal Dynamics Montreal?
Was it? Eidos Montreal.
Eidos, yes.
Yeah.
Eidos.
But they got all that stuff, and then apparently they've turned around and sold the rights for Tomb Raider to Amazon for $600 million. So, wow, cool. Apparently Amazon was going to be publishing the next Tomb Raider game that was being developed. But now they're going to be both publishing it and they're going to own the rights to the franchise after purchasing them. from Embracer Group. So yeah, good job, Embracer Group. Maybe, I don't know. Bryce, you seem confused. You've got a confused look on your face.
Well, so we covered this on Cord Killers because there's also the TV and movie side of it of the next story here, and that seems promising, and we'll get to that. But Amazon doesn't have a great track record with video games, Jeff. They got that one that people like, and that was notorious for being really fucked up all of the time. So I don't know that Lara is gonna be. I
You talk about the new world that was like that was popular for a little while.
Right.
Is that the MMO you're talking about?
Yeah. Yes, that train wreck. Is that even still up? Look, okay. Just Amazon's New World on their above the fold on their website. MMORPG awarded as the 2022 most improved MMO.
Yeah, most improved. That's what you're looking for. The only saving grace here, right, is that up until now, Amazon's game. Their game strategy has been purchasing like kind of mid-tier companies and then forcing them to build stuff that they think should be good. Whereas buying Crystal Dynamics and letting them make a Tomb Raider game is a little bit more solid, right? You're not like buying Frogwares and then instructing them to make the new Tomb Raider game. It's like Crystal Dynamics knows how to make a Tomb Raider game. But then, yeah, as you were mentioning, not only that, but also we got the news that apparently there's a Tomb Raider show and that it's going to be written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge of Fleabag fame. I don't know enough about Fleabag to know. I think I watched one episode of Fleabag, and that would not be the person that I would that my mind would immediately go to make a Tomb Raider thing, unless it's going to have a really different tone. Have you watched Fleabag, Bryce?
No, I haven't. I know it's supposed to be great and really funny, but I haven't seen it yet. But maybe that's what the Tomb Raider verse needs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different look.
Maybe. I mean, I assume that like the obvious joke, right, is that they're going to take out all the tomb raiding and it's just going to be Lara Croft going on a series of bad dates in Britain and like complaining about them directly to the camera, like Fleabag. But like, obviously, it's not going to be that.
Tomb raiding shit on the date. That's going to be really funny. Like if she like she goes to the bathroom and then she's like in the vents because she's looking for secrets or something. Like there's something there. It's probably not that though.
I mean, as somebody who watched both of the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies, if you want to take one of these and make a comedy out of it, if you want to make a Lara Croft Tomb Raider comedy, I'm more than willing to give that a shot, because I've seen what happens when you just do action, and those movies did not impress me to the point where I didn't even watch the Alicia Vikander one.
I remember liking the first Tomb Raider movie, but I haven't watched it in forever, so maybe I have rosy memories of it.
Yeah. Let's see. In other news, Final Fantasy VII had a big anniversary announcement spree. There was there was a lot of bullshit and then one interesting thing. I don't understand this. This is a little strange to me, but apparently Japan has officially recognized the game's anniversary as Final Fantasy VII Day in Japan. I don't know why you would have specifically a Final Fantasy VII Day and not just like Final Fantasy Day. I don't know. Maybe that's just my brain going into overdrive, but it was
cow.
like...
What? It's the cash cow. No one cares about the Warriors of Light. Give me Tifa. Give me Aerith. Come on, Jeff.
As somebody who feels like Final Fantasy VII has gotten like completely overblown to the point of ridiculous absurdity, that's probably where I'm coming from. I want those Warriors of Light. They deserve. What about that guy from Stranger in Paradise? What about Jack Garland from Stranger in Paradise? He deserves to be recognized along with everybody else. What about those poor saps from the Final Fantasy movie? Steve Buscemi, Science Man, fighting ghosts and stuff.
Okay.
I want all my Final Fantasy babies to have the love that they deserve. You know. No, wait, hold on. I want Phoebe Waller-Bridge to write a story about Lightning trying to get a date in the Final Fantasy universe, and then she can't do it, and then she's got these problems, and they're so relatable. That's what I want. Anyway.
Maybe.
Also, they put Cloud and Sephiroth playlists on Spotify. These are not like Cloud and Sephiroth themed playlists. These are just like the various themes from those two characters as they have come out over the years. But the most important part is that Power Wash Simulator is getting Final Fantasy VII DLC where you can clean up Midgard with your Power Wash thing. And as someone who really, really genuinely enjoyed Power Wash Simulator and just started cleaning up Lara Croft's Tomb Raider mansion in the free Tomb Raider DLC for Power Wash Simulator, I'm more than willing to go into Final Fantasy VII and clean up whatever you want. You need me to hose down Red 13? He's not taking a bath? I could do that. Who do you need? Is Sephiroth's sword dirty?
Don't power wash the soft tissue. Don't power wash the animals.
Okay, Kite Sith. That's a big stuffed animal, right? Like take the cat off and then just power wash down that motherfucker. Sid's rocket. That thing's dirty as shit. I'm gonna do that. The High Wind is gonna need a good cleaning. This is actually legitimately exciting to me. I can't wait to power wash all of the stuff in Final Fantasy. I don't know. Did you go back to Power Wash Simulator and finish it? I think we talked about that several podcasts ago, or maybe it was on a dojo.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet, but I need to because I'm told that there are a few levels I'm missing.
Yep. Towards the end, and that was kind of it. Final Fantasy VII. It's not like we announced a release date for the next one or, anything specific. It was just there's going to be some Power Wash. You know what? I got to say, I'm so glad that we are now at Power Wash Simulator gets the tie-in as opposed to Viscera Cleanup Detail getting tie-ins to other stuff because that game was not fun to play. I hated that game. And I feel like for a long time they kept trying to make that a thing, and it was like, no, I don't want to hit the mop button one time too many, and now I'm just mopping blood back onto. Oh Jesus! Look, let me go see if I can find a shell casing behind this filing cabinet.
It's a rage tuber game. It's a game that you watch someone else play on YouTube, and they make it look fun because they're raging in it. And I would do way better at the game that they do, but it's just a fucked up. The game's just fucked up. The game just fucking sucks. Anyway, Power Washer.
Screw that game. Did not like it. Power Wash Simulator. Great. Let's see. I had a segue at some point for this story, but I feel like it eluded me.
Did someone rob you of it?
Yes, I got robbed, much like this GameStop manager who got fired after some guys came into his store and robbed him of $5,000 worth of PlayStation 5s. So the story here is apparently it was like a manager at GameStop that was there by himself. Two guys come in, they ask for PlayStation 5. He goes and opens up the back room, at which point the two guys muscle their way into the back room. One of them says, "Don't you do anything, you crazy manager guy," and the other guy loads up his arms with PlayStations, walks them out to the car. They took 10 of them and then left. When GameStop found out about this, they fired the guy. And yeah, this is further evidence that GameStop sucks. Apparently there was a question of whether this guy did it like the wrong way. Like you're supposed to apparently ring the person up for the thing before you open the door to get the thing. I think that's kind of stupid because really the problem here was the fact that GameStop is so short-staffed that there was one person working in a store full of like expensive electronics equipment by themselves who like got robbed. And I don't know. I was reading this article on Kotaku about this, and just like the stories of like they're putting managers in charge of multiple stores, and like their raises have gotten cut, and just all this bad shit happening with GameStop. I don't know.
It's fucking awful. The pretext of a robbery is I'm going to take your shit or I'm going to hurt you, and then I'm going to take your shit. And that is why it doesn't matter if the employee didn't he went to the back before he got that doesn't change what was happening, which was we're going to hurt you if you don't give us the thing that we want, and then we're going to take the thing that we want. It doesn't matter either way. This is just, it's fuck to GameStop. I'm ready for that. It's really awful what happened to that person. I hope that they get a better job at a good company.
I agree. I think GameStop sucks. And then let's see. Last, before we jump into the trailers, we had an update to a story from last week or maybe the week before. Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PC had a big security flaw where you could actually... It was like the one from Dark Souls where people could actually execute code remotely through GTA Online, corrupting people's profiles and like fucking systems up. That has been fixed. So unlike Dark Souls that felt the need to take their servers offline for like 8 months, I don't know if some of them are still offline, I think. This Grand Theft Auto 5 security problem got quick patched last Wednesday, and should not be a thing anymore. So if you've been avoiding playing GTA Online on the PC, you can now do so without having your system taken over by horrible bullshit. So
good. Cheating is a problem on that game still.
Oh yeah, you used to play that game, right?
I used to play, and cheating was everywhere. It was rampant. It fucking sucked.
Okay.
But that was a few years ago, so maybe it's changed.
Okay, let's do some trailers. Let's see. First up, we got a 10-minute. This was a 10-minute interview with some of the developers on Dead Island 2, talking about the flesh system. Oh yeah, whoever did this, like Bryce, you have done video editing. I have done video editing, and I'm like, why are we just have this static shot of these two guys going and like you have this, like, the system that they're talking about is in Dead Island 2. They've literally, like, Sniper Elite built the bodies of the zombies, like, by putting flesh over muscle over bone with a bunch of blood in it, so that when you hit the zombies, it will tear through their clothes. It will create, like, slashes dynamically. They come apart as opposed to just having like a decal put on them of like a hit. Like, they dynamically come apart a little bit at a time. And I'll be honest, like, when they show the gameplay of it, looks cool. Like, looks like a really gory, messy system. Unfortunately, in between the roughly 4 minutes worth of footage, there's like 8 minutes of like these two guys just sitting talking to a camera about how much they like blood and guts and zombie gore and stuff. So
they're proud of it. And who knows? Maybe this is what they put on the website, and the website doesn't have it. We want people to stay on the website. It's been, I don't know, 30 years since Dead Island 1 came out, so I don't exactly remember. But I thought this was like a big gunplay game.
No.
No, it was okay.
Yeah, Dead Island 1 was all about crafting, like it had some guns, but it was more about crafting like an axe that had flames on it, or like an electric machete, and then they would break down over time, and you would find more raw materials and blueprints and make new stuff. But yeah, the whole conceit of that game was more first-person melee combat. The thing that is actually nice about this, though, is that like I'm really worried about this game, but I think that what I'm seeing from the small action snippets makes it seem like my kind of horrible, over the top zombie murder extravaganza, because this is being made by Dam Buster, and the last thing that they made was Homefront 2, which was not well received. And there's a question about whether the problem with that game was more of a management issue or whether it was a skill issue of the studio itself. But everything I've seen so far from Dead Island 2 looks fine. I get a little gun shy from a company. I look to previous work as an indicator of future results. So their last game was total garbage, and whether that was their fault or not, it's just going to make me a little wary about whatever comes next. But I don't know. In between when they were talking, I like what I was seeing here with all these zombie faces getting pulped. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it'll be like Watch Dogs, where the first game was like a little mediocre, but the second game was great. Maybe they'll really figure it out.
And then the third game is also mediocre. I didn't love
that first game, I think.
I played Watch Dogs Legion all the way to the end, looking for the fun, and I did not get it.
I can't believe you did that. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake.
I know. Speaking of games with an that look like I have no reservations about Atomic Heart. I've been waiting for a long time.
You don't?
Nope, not even a little bit. This game looks wacky and fun and all kinds of crazy. And the only thing I didn't know was like what the hell the story was until this 8-minute overview of just like you're in this like kind of alternate history 1950s Russia where they discovered this like material that allowed them to make a bunch of like helper robots, and now they're rolling out the second iteration of these helper robots. No, the robots have gone crazy, and now you're like a special forces beefcake dude that's got to go in and you got to fight the robots. There's some plants, you got like special powers, you got a little robot worms in your hand that's like your buddy. The robots, they got like mustaches and everything looks like old Soviet propaganda. I don't know. Well, I'm all in for this. You seem like you have a little you have some reservations.
I do. I do. I'm this because it looks interesting. I think they're doing some really interesting aesthetic choices. I don't know. I don't know how to. It's something. I'm big unsettled by the alternative history.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if I watched all of this because this was a pretty long overview. Mm-hmm. I did watch a good bit of it. I don't know. It gives. I think it gives me really strong BioShock Infinite vibes. Mm-hmm. Which is not a bad game. I think that game is pretty good. But I guess I don't know. I wonder how much is here. I wonder what it is. Like, this is cool. It's very in depth. Is this all spectacle? Is this a one and gun cinematic sort of experience, or is this a bunch of crafting and grinding? I don't know. I want to see. I feel like I didn't get the gameplay overview part of gameplay.
I could see that. You know what it reminds me of is Wolfenstein 2. It to me, between the way that the gunplay has like gunplay with weird weapons, but then also it's got some kind of like powery stuff built in, which I know that Wolfenstein didn't have that, but like a lot of the alternate history scenes where you're shown just kind of walking around looking at like this weird retrofuturism Russia thing, to me gives me big Wolfenstein vibes. And I think that it's possible what you said could be true, and that I'm just blinded by all of the art direction is so like stunning that I'm just like, I'm not paying as much attention to what's actually going on in between that.
And like, I'll admit, like, I think a lot of my skepticism comes from like, when are they going to show me the thing that makes me realize why this is not for me? Mm-hmm. Like, I keep like like it'll be like day one, and be like, that's right, our new battle royale game, Atomic Heart, is finally out. Like,
oh god damn it!
Like I'm just waiting for the one thing, because this does it like visually looks great. The idea is interesting. What is it? Why is this thing? Why is this thing gonna suck?
No, this is it could be like I was telling people before. I talked about on one of the sequentials. You and I even talked about it when Forspoken was in development. I would keep seeing videos for Forspoken, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But I was like, but something doesn't seem right here. There's something like nothing. I can't point to anything, but I'm just not getting the vibe. The vibes aren't lining up for me as somebody who's played a lot of video games. It seems like I'm waiting for a shoe to drop, and I don't even know why, but just something is off. Now, I'm not getting that from this, but I've been watching gameplay trailers of this crazy thing for like 4 years now, and every time they show it, it's just like, here's a bunch of robots, here's a bunch of machine guns, here's a bunch of powers, and I'm just like, sign me up. But I don't know, it's gonna be on Game Pass though, so we can all check it out. Let's see. Deliver Us Mars has a launch trailer. Not very much to say with this. I really like to Deliver Us the Moon. Can't wait to give this one a shot. We'll probably be doing some RageSelect videos on this next week. It's kind of interesting how everything looks pretty good except for the faces of the people. All have a lot of kind of uncanny valley doll eyes going on in them. I don't know.
It's got to be because this is a nice trailer, but this is like a first person puzzle like traversal game, right?
I think it's
I only played like a little bit of Deliver Us the Moon, but I just assume this is just like a traversal adventure game.
I think it's a third person, but yes, I'm pretty sure you're right, where it's just going to be a bunch of kind of getting from, we got to get to the engineering section in order to restore power to the main computer so that we can get a uplink to mission control. And, oh, look, I got some pickaxes, so now I can jump through these canyon parts. Yeah.
Also, did it feel like they gave away the story of this game and the previous one? Like, I hadn't finished. I really didn't get very far in Deliver Us the Moon, but I feel like the trailer for this gives us the whole story of this game of the Mars, right? I don't know. There's a line in the trailer that makes me feel like you just gave away the whole fucking thing.
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't paying super close attention when I watched it.
Right.
Yeah. Evil Dead is getting a battle royale mode. The Evil Dead game that was a kind of asynchronous multiplayer survival thing is now getting a splatter royale update that's going to have the various characters fighting against each other in a battle royale mode. Having played this game, it seems like this actually would work really well for what I know about the mechanics of this game, because it's very kind of action oriented, and there's a lot of in the game of like going to various like locations and then searching them for materials to fight the Deadites. Because when you play the standard game and you're playing as the survivors, you're trying to like kind of build up enough resources to then survive these encounters to complete the mission of getting the Necronomicon. So and the fact is that because the computer, or because the person playing as the Deadites could take over certain people and then fight the other players, they've already got a kind of a PvP like framework set up. So I can see how this would slot in really well for that. Yeah. Also, they're adding it's Ruby. What is her name? Ruby Nobi, who is from the show. I didn't actually get this, but this is Lucy Lawless's character in the show. I wasn't able to identify. This does not look like Xena Warrior Princess to me in this promotional art.
No, not at all.
So. Let's see. We got the Hogwarts Legacy launch trailer, which shows off a bunch more Hogwarts Legacy. Still really kind of weirdly torn about this game, but I don't know. Just from a gameplay perspective, I do think that this looks like a pretty good game. It seems like the sort of thing that you would get when you actually take a franchise and give it to somebody as experienced as Avalanche to make that you're going to get something that's a little bit better. Like, yeah, look at the faces in here compared to Deliver Us Mars. Like, they're all like expressive and shit. Anyway, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This is going to be, I don't know. This game is weird. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Yeah.
The Sims 4 is getting babies. So if the thing,
they've got babies. No, hold on. They've got babies.
Yes.
Don't they have babies?
Previously, they had babies, but they were just like a piece of furniture, essentially. Now they have like babies that can crawl around and emote and do stuff, as opposed to just babies that are just a thing until they turn into the children. Also, there's a bunch of other stuff happening with children. I, for one, am not interested in children, and I'm not interested in The Sims, so this is a very limited use to old Jeff from RageSelect, but...
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's, like, a real... It's the Sims 4, man, wow. God damn. You they figured something out. It's really cool how they're still supporting The Sims 4 this long. Like, I know like a million content packs and expansions, whatever, but like this is crazy. This is that they like the base game is like free to play now because there's just so many packs and things. Like, that's like good on them. Like, shout out to that team for continuing to expand that game.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see. We got the launch trailer for Season, A Letter to the Future, which it's funny. All of the reviews for this game are very good. This is a game where it's like you play as this character that's kind of riding their bike through the world that is, as I understand it, coming to an end, and you're kind of like recording people's stories and like kind of recording like little snippets of audio and taking pictures of stuff. And all of the reviews that I've seen have all had nothing but glowing things to say, and they're all just like, oh, it's very peaceful and contemplative and like good story and stuff. I'm a little torn about whether to actually put this on RageSelect, because this is the sort of game where I feel like we get to the end and we're just like, this is a fine game, but it's too laid back for us on this.
We can't be funny during this. And they can't be funny during this.
Yes.
Yeah. Damn, this game's still not out yet, huh? Wow,
it's out now.
Or it's out now.
It's out right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Finally came out.
Boy, howdy. Okay.
Yep.
Finally. Got some launch games out.
Let's see. We got a trailer for a new Tomb Raider phone game that's coming out. God, there's a lot of Tomb Raider in this podcast. This game, I like the kind of little chibi look of Lara Croft as she runs through the beginning part of the trailer, and then they show what this game looks like, and it looks like total jerk-ass phone game, top-down, kind of avoiding... It looks like Ikari Warriors, but with Lara Croft running between tomb traps. I don't know. This could be my bias for phone games talking, but...
I mean, okay, but also, look at this footage, Jeff. What if this was Diablo?
I would not... I mean, that would be fine.
What I mean is, like, what if the mechanics that we're looking at are more action RPG Diablo-like than a temple runner style? Like, I think I play a bunch of these types of games. I'm a little there seems to be something here. This is not nothing.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to check it out?
Like, I would check this out probably. Like, this is more of a game than the Street Fighter thing, if we're going to talk about that.
We are going to talk about that. Yeah, in fact, but let's see. There was a trailer for the new Crew game, and I can't with this. It just does anybody care? Does anybody care? There's going to be a new Crew game, like. No? Okay, good. Thanks. Let's all move on. Forza Motorsport. Apparently, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do that Street Fighter game ahead of time, because we're just talking about the thing. We're just moving it around. We're in the end game now, Bryce. Street Fighter Duel is coming to the App Store and Google Play. This is going to be a like a kind of, what did they say? It's like the Star Wars Duel of Heroes or Marvel Strike Force, where you put together a group of Street Fighters and they have to fight a bunch of people. They kind of auto battle a bunch of people. And then you put together your teams and you do more and you do more. I like the art style. I'm a little put off by the fact that Crunchyroll has anything to do with it.
I mean, this is from the like one screenshot I could find of this. This is just a mobile auto RPG, like you mentioned. Like, this is all of the mobile RPGs you can think of. It's going to be that with Street Fighter sprites. And I'm not gonna look. There's something here that I don't. I would play the Lara Croft game before I would play this one, Jeff.
Okay. I've decided just not to play any phone games.
Wow.
But that's just me.
Be the smart one.
Yeah. Let's see. Now everything is out of order, but it's okay. Forza has been delayed. Okay. This is a question. Okay. This is a weird story. Forza Motorsport, when it had its first trailer, had a listing that said spring 2023 was when it was going to be out. When Microsoft showed off the Forza Motorsport gameplay at their developer direct presentation, that date, it was listed as just 2023 as opposed to the previous spring 2023 moniker. Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb, who has been known to have kind of insidery information in the past, has said that according to his contacts, it's probably not going to be in the first half of the year, that we're probably going to be seeing this later in the year. Now, considering that there was, I don't think spring, just putting spring in your trailer counts as like a full-on announced release date. I don't really consider that to be a huge, like, controversy. Yeah, but again, it's better to have a good game. It's better to have a game be delayed and then come out and not be busted than it is to get a half-baked game just to make the date that was in a trailer beforehand.
Especially for Forza, but about a year off from Gran Turismo 7, which just came out and has its own share of problems that it's still trying to figure out. And so if I'm working on the Forza Motorsport game, I'm going to make sure there's going to be a lot of scrutiny for any game to come out right now and not try to take some of the long list of issues with Gran Turismo 7 into account for your own simulator racing game.
Yep. Did you what are your you and I have talked about this. What are your feelings about the Gran Turismo movie, Bryce?
It'll be interesting because it is a real story. There is someone who played Gran Turismo so well they let him race real cars and he did okay. That's fascinating. I'm into it, and it seems like they're gonna schlock it up a little bit. I kind of think it would be neat if it's a little just schlocky and spectacle-y.
Yeah, I think when it first was announced, I was just like, well, how are you going to do that? Well, it's just going to be a game about racing, and then they described the plot, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, and also this is based on a real thing that actually happened. I'm like, well, okay, then let's see how it goes. Let's see. Amnesia: The Bunker has been delayed into May due to some issue. But basically, I thought it was really interesting the way that they came out and said, like, yeah, we had a lot of people that were kind of sick during the wintertime and with some holiday stuff, and we just had some delays. And so instead of coming out March, it's going to be coming out in May 16th. So it'll be interesting to see. This one has a gun, which I think is really interesting for an Amnesia game. Yeah, the one thing for me that's been missing from Amnesia games is some way to combat the evil forces, because if all you can do is run away and hide every time a monster comes out, I eventually get bored really quickly because I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had to put a gun in sometime, right? You stop making your video game or you live long enough to put a gun in it.
Exactly. Let's see. Okay, we're just cutting left and right here. Konami is shutting down Crime Site. I actually played this game. I played this game for the RageSelect with my friend Michael. This was a game where you played as a digital version of Sherlock Holmes fighting a digital version of Moriarty in an Among Us style crime mystery where you all would play in various rooms and try to figure out who was the guy and murder the suspect. And it was like, I would be surprised if no one actually knows what I'm talking about, because this thing came out and I feel like I only played it out of incredibly morbid curiosity. But yeah, May 1st, Crime Site going out. It was launched in April of last year. So basically a year and change. The main thing with this one, though, too, was that they charged money for this game. It was $20, which they then knocked down to 10 a little bit later. But yeah, pouring out for old Crime
that's
Site.
a bummer. Having paid for this game, you had at least hoped for them you would keep it up in some even abbreviated or limited service. Maybe. But I think I read on that article that the player count is in the 4s right now. It's in the 4 to 5 players at the moment.
Yep.
So maybe this is not maybe that's not a big loss.
Oh, wait, hold on. I have to put an addendum here. Knockout City that we talked about before is going to have a peer-to-peer PC update before it goes off, so you'll still be able to play it on the PC. Like, you'll still be able to play the PC version of it. Yeah, Rumbleverse was shutting down all the way, and Knockout City is not going to be working on the consoles anymore, but the PC version will basically be set up so that you can still play if you can get enough people together to play it. So,
that's okay. That's cool. That's cool. I mean,
Yep.
It sucks that it's shutting down, but that's cool.
Yeah. So I was reminded as when you said, a way to keep playing, and I was like, wasn't there something that I forgot? Yeah. Let's see. And then let's finish up here with a couple quick Nintendo stories. Well, sort of Nintendo stories. Link to the Past has been fully reverse engineered and ported to the PC. So unlike previously where you would be running like an emulator, this is literally running Link to the Past natively on the PC, which allows for a few interesting things. You don't have to rely on emulator software. You can do stuff like expand the field of view. You can add different shaders and stuff to it. I think it's really cool. I think that there was one of the Mario games previously that had this done to it as well, where instead of just like running it on an emulator, you're literally running it on native PC hardware, which may not sound like a big deal, but does open up a lot of interesting mod potential to it. So in fact, in this video, one of the main things they're showing is the load time between the various screens is quite a bit faster on the PC port because it can just use the hardware as opposed to an emulated version that is running on a virtual Super Nintendo. So
this kind of confused me, and I still don't 100% get it, but it sounds like what you have to provide a copy of your own personal dump of the game, and plug it into this to make this port, which is how they are, I guess, planning to not get sued out of existence by Nintendo for doing this, which is a clever way to do it. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Let me just go get my ROM. Let me just get my ROM. Let me just go get my. Let me just go dump my ROM real quick. Okay. Yeah.
What? You don't have your ROM dumping station all just set up, ready to go, just in case you need to.
My dumping station is a dump, Jeff. Okay, it's a real dump.
Last but not least, oh wait, actually this was really weird. Did you read the story about this?
This story is so fucking weird.
Thing? So, okay, all right. In other Nintendo news, there's a big fighting game tournament called Genesis 9 that was January 20 to 23rd in San Jose, and there are people from all over the world coming in. One of those competitors was Leonardo MK Leo Lopez. Oh, no, wait, hold on. No, there was a British player, Elliot Frenzy Grossman, who came in and apparently this is so weird. I have never seen this before. Like, came out of the airport and was looking to get a ride to the hotel, and like, normally he would use his phone and he would get a ride share or he'd go up to a taxi stand, but like a guy came up to him, his phone was out of juice. A guy came up to him and was like, hey, do you need a ride? You know, my car's right over there. Like, I'll do it. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then he got in, and apparently, like, when he got in, like, a bunch of cops started running towards his car going like, no. At which point the guy peeled out to get away from the airport. And then this Smash Brothers player jumped out of the moving car because he was familiar with
like 15 miles an hour. He fucking tucks and rolls.
And apparently he jumped out because he was familiar with this scam where people will pick you up at the airport in something that looks like a legitimate either ride share or like a taxi and then rob you, which is apparently what was happening here. And like, I'll be Bryce, I read this story and I was like, fake, so fake. This is fake as shit. But then at the bottom, like, they contacted the police and they were like, no, that's what happened. Like, we've been trying to get this guy.
The police talked to him.
Yeah. So, you know, be careful when accepting rides at the airport. Like, what the hell?
So, okay, the one skepticism feather I'm going to put in this is because I don't think it's fake, but I do think we're in this fucking frenzied time where everyone thinks that they're going to be kidnapped. Like, no, you can't just go watch Taken and think you're Liam Neeson's daughter. Like, no one wants you. They want the people who get kidnapped and trafficked are not anybody who's listening to this podcast. I'm sorry to tell you that. And so, like, I don't think that this guy was going to get human trafficked, but he probably could have been mugged or been a part of a cab scam of taking you somewhere and then saying, hey, no, you owe me more money. Or there's any number of things you can do if you get into someone's car wrong. And good on him for at least realizing something was wrong and getting the fuck out of there.
Yes. And then speaking of realizing something is wrong, last but not least, we got a very short 30-second trailer for a new trailer for Super Mario Brothers movie. This is from the previous thing where Mario is fighting Donkey Kong. In this one, he manages to get the cat suit. And then Donkey Kong, who voiced by Seth Rogen, who is not even remotely attempting to sound like anything but just Seth Rogen, Donkey Kong, laughs at him and then punches the camera and it's over. I don't know. I mostly wanted to say this because, one, I really like the look of the Mario cat suit. Looks cool. And two, I have way less of a problem with Chris Pratt's Mario voice than I do with Seth fucking Rogen's Donkey Kong voice. Like,
what?
Like, Chris Pratt has just a regular ass dude voice, which I don't mind coming out of Mario. Seth Rogen's voice is instantly recognizable as the stoner from a million fucking early 2000s comedies. Coming out of Donkey Kong sounds weird to me. I don't know. You're rolling your eyes at me, obviously.
I am. It wasn't until you mentioned it that I realized, no, I was giving you a real long eye roll on that one. He's fun. Look, man. Look. Rogan's going to do great. Jack Black's going to do great. There's a reason Chris Pratt doesn't have any lines in this trailer, Jeff. I don't know what that reason is yet, but there's a real fucking reason our main character doesn't say any lines in the 3 trailers that they put out for this goddamn movie.
Look, Bryce, this movie's going to come out. It's
the Mushroom Kingdom.
Okay, listen. This movie's going to come out. It's going to do whatever, right? It's going to do whatever. Eventually, it's going to be released to VOD home video, and some group out there is going to go in and redub the entirety of his lines with some guy that is able to do a reasonable Charles Martinet voice along, and then we can all go download our modded version of the Super Mario Brothers movie where Mario sounds like the way that everybody wants him to sound like. Maybe.
Good. I'm looking forward to that day. Let's make a day out of it. I'll bring the popcorn.
Okay, fair enough. And with that, we're done with another. This was really long. It could have been worse. It might have been worse at some point. But before we go,
Sorry,
Bryce, tell the fine folks of the internet where they can find you when you're not helping me to do all them podcasts.
You can check out my Marbles live stream. The website is marbles.win. We are on Fridays at the moment, and it's a lot of fun. It's totally free. It's not very involved. If you want to just sit back and watch, you can be involved and just sit back and watch. So check it out. Marbles.win's got the website. It's got all the links to the Twitch and everything else, plus the schedule. So that's that. Thank you.
There you go. And yeah, you already know where you are if you're watching this. So I don't know, maybe go to the patreon.com/RageSelect. Maybe not. It's late, man. I got it's you know what, just turn it off. Podcast over. That's my new outro. Just gonna scream podcast over. Podcast